Well, but it's only a matter of time considering how I've talked about Xbox's failures and Sony's greedy corporation methods. Let's bash on Nintendo, cause why not? God, you know something's really wrong when the big three of the video game company console manufacturers are messing up big. And no, I'm not just talking about the Pal World situation, although that did really amplify some of the issues I have with Nintendo. No, I'm mainly talking about all their cease and desists with fan games, with mods, with emulators, and, well, I guess at this point, with Pal World. Who the fuck is texting me right now? My God, I'm recording, Camilla. Please stop texting me with your political... whatever. Okay, off topic. Anyways, this is something that Nintendo has always had an issue with, even like way before the Wii U era of gaming, when they were cracking down on YouTube videos. If you don't remember what happened back then during the Wii U era, when they were very hard on like the YouTube content and content creating for Nintendo games, they were adamant in making sure that Nintendo fans, specifically Nintendo fans, because like who the hell cares about like other people because they don't care about Nintendo. Nintendo fans are getting screwed because they were making content talking about Nintendo games. Not that they were bashing on Nintendo, they were just talking about it, whether they enjoyed it, whether they enjoyed a game, or whether just in general Nintendo's state of affairs. It didn't matter what they were talking about, as long as Nintendo's name or their IPs were on it, Nintendo will strike down your channel because of it. Since then, they thankfully relaxed on that issue, but they're still going hard on the fan games and the emulators that they don't even sell anymore. You guys remember Super Mario 3D All-Stars when they actually did sell Mario 64 Sunshine and Galaxy? And then they just took it away at April 1st on their anniversary year? Yes, how else are you supposed to play those games? Nintendo is always this anomaly of fuckery when it comes to business practice. They clearly have good games. In fact, out of the three, they have the best IPs in the market. They got Mario, they got Zelda, Metroid, Pokemon, but they want to preserve them as much as possible because... just because? Here's a legitimate question for any of you Pokemon fans that want to get into the old series, but can't. Are you willing to spend $200 on Soul Silver? Nintendo has all these reservoir of games that they are just sitting upon gold mines of and refusing to not only just sell those damn things, but to make sure no one plays them as much as possible. They're not making money out of this, and yet Nintendo wants them gone? They are actively destroying their own preservation, and that's ironically something that even Xbox is doing better. Xbox, the people that can't even make box arts correctly. People are wondering whether or not there's going to be backwards compatibility for the Switch 2, and I hope to God there is, because if they remove the backwards compatibility for the first Switch games, which I think it's probably not possible since if they're going to go for a cartridge-based system, then they have to. It's like a no-brainer. But in the case where they don't because fuck preservation, then... well, who's going to be excited for the Switch 2? You have these amazing games spanning from 2017 that you can still purchase on your local Best Buy, but who wants to get them if they're not going to be playable on your new system? It just frustrates me that Nintendo is willing to go out of their way to not make money. That's the stupidest thing too. We actually want to give Nintendo money, but we can't because Nintendo does not want our money. It's so dumb. I get it if it was a Switch emulator, with the whole Yuzu situation, they cracked down on the Yuzu emulator, considering how the Switch is still in the market. It's basically the equivalent of making a PS5 emulator. I get that aspect why they want to take it down, because it's still a recent system, but if they're going to take down the Wii U emulators, the Wii emulators, GameCube, N64, their entire historic catalog, then why? Just to get a little bit more money with $15 per month from your subscription service? Is that it? Is that $15 really worth it just to play Super Mario Bros. 1 on the NES for your online subscription? Because that's another thing, they don't really have a virtual console system. There's no way to permanently own these games, especially nowadays, now that the 3DS and Wii U eStore is down. Emulation is literally the only option to keep this game because the live service mechanic is only a rental. And yes, I know I've been kind of like talking about how amazing Game Pass was back then, but my mind can change sometimes, and I just realized, oh shit, that might actually be a terrible thing for the gaming industry. I mean, more so with Microsoft nowadays, considering how there's literally like no games for the Game Pass model anyways. But that's beside the point. What I'm trying to get here right now is Nintendo, just port these games over to the eShop. It's like, that's literally all we need to do. That is like the most simple. Maybe there's some licensing issues with some third-party NES and SNES games. I get that. But you're Nintendo! You've got Zelda! You've got Star Fox! You've got Metroid! You have so many IPs that you own that you could resell. Maybe not Pokemon, since they're technically a second-party company? In which case, Pokemon Company, get your shit together! It just boggles my mind that there's so much potential for money earning that Nintendo just refuses to do, and instead do the opposite and take away that privilege, which continues further with the extension of taking down fan games. I was definitely well aware of this when they took down ASMR, which is abbreviated for Another Metroid 2 Remake. They thought that the sales for this fan game, which is very well done and very long in development, was going to impact the sales of their 3DS Metroid Samus Returns game. Which, okay, well, first off, coincidental, because like you guys were like waiting way too long for a Metroid 2 remake. But secondly, you do know you can play both games at the same time, right? It's not like, oh no, I have no choice but to play one game over the other. One's a free game that you can play anytime you want on your PC, and the other one just happens to be an officially licensed product. Now, I get that legally, Nintendo can do whatever they want. Technically, these fan games are allowed to be taken down for whatever reason Nintendo wants it to be, but that doesn't make it right. Whatever copyright Nintendo decides to utilize doesn't mean that they could wave their dick around and say, hey, I got all this money that you owe us. Let's use a different company as an example for legal morality. Disney. I'm sure you guys heard about this story before, but in the case you haven't, there was a boy who unfortunately passed away that was a huge fan of Spider-Man. And as a momentum to carry on his legacy after death, his parents want his gravestone to be decorated with Spider-Man memorabilia. Unfortunately, Disney literally took that down, decided to do a cease and desist on a dead child. Oh yeah, sure, legally they could do it, but you're fucking spitting on the grave on the dead child. This is Nintendo's equivalency to that. Okay, not in that drastic measures, but you get my point, right? These fan games are made for the passion and creativity of their own inspiration from Nintendo themselves. It's like finally perfecting that score on your quiz exam and showing it to your parents, and all they did was burn the fucking paper to the furnace. Nintendo should be hiring these guys or giving them jobs or like development funds or whatever, or purchasing them for like, I don't fucking know, but they should do anything except ruining their dreams of aspirations as a game developer. And in the time when they are successful finally, they sue them. Palworld, ladies and gentlemen, we're finally talking about it. Palworld, let's not kid ourselves here, has a huge inspiration for Pokemon, whether or not it's the design similarities for the Pokemon game. I could get the confusion in how Nintendo is a little bit myth about the whole copyright claim with this game, because it can dive into pretty similar uncanny territories with the Pokemon IP. However, this game plays nothing like Pokemon aside from just catching it and throwing a dumb ball at it. The game plays a lot more like Ark Survival, with its camp building mechanic, this material grinding, climbing up mountains and collecting materials. It basically has more similarities to Minecraft than it does with Pokemon. So the fact that Nintendo's deciding to sue them for their successes is, let's just say, greedy as fuck. Oh, but guess what? It's not a copyright claim that they're making, it's a patent claim. So to differentiate between what a copyright and a patent is, copyright is the intellectual IP that the owner is owned, or the owner owns, essentially. Where a patent is a mechanic that they own. a gameplay mechanic. Now this changes the narrative a lot against Nintendo. If it was a copyright claim, I don't think Nintendo would be underwater as much as it is right now. But the fact that it's a patent claim just shows how greedy and unforgiving Nintendo is. And unfortunately, I don't think Nintendo's gonna lose this lawsuit. Nintendo has historically had a history, God, I really need to find more synonyms for that, of winning all of their lawsuits that they sued. And I don't think Pocket Bear can come out of this one without losing a lot of money. Now, at the time of this recording, it's not clear as to what patent has been broken. If I had to assume, it's maybe because of a ball that you throw, and that's what Nintendo owns. And if that's the case, then, oh boy, Far Cry has a rock that you could throw at an enemy. Why not sue Ubisoft? You see how patent claims could be stupid and bullshit? If you want to make another example of how stupid patent claims can be, I remember specifically that either Namco or Bandai Namco own the patent claim for mini-games on a loading screen, and because they have that specific patent, any other game that has a mini-game loading screen can easily be sued by them. That just stifles innovation, and frankly, does not belong in the video game industry. We want innovation, we want good, fun games, and to strip that away because of a patent claim, that just feels wrong. I can already imagine how this lawsuit is going to end, but when the time comes, who knows what's going to happen, but it doesn't change the fact that Nintendo's could arguably be even more greedier than Sony at times. I'm really hating the video game industry right now, and it's just burning and catching on fire and reburning onto the star of Nebula Nova system. But I think the worst part about talking and bashing Nintendo for this particular video is that despite what I say, Nintendo still makes good games. It's very easy to talk trash about Sony and Xbox because their games are either subpar or just straight up bad. With Nintendo, there's very rare exceptions where they'll make a bad game. All of their games that they've developed have been mostly amazing, and I feel like that's going to overshadow Nintendo's greediness. They're legitimately the Disney of the video game industry, and I feel like they might be way too big to even criticize. I could say all I want about how bad Nintendo is in terms of a company standard, but at the same time I depressedly feel that it's not going to matter because I'm still going to buy the next Zelda game, or I'm still going to buy the next Mario game. They legitimately do make good games, and it sucks that their behavior is not punished because of my lack of willpower, or for any Nintendo fan's lack of willpower. That is what I am scared about, is when I am accustomed to these bad practices, and it doesn't change. In a perfect world, Nintendo will actually listen to the fans and agree to change their methods of how they run their business. But they're the top dog right now. They're the ones that are nearly selling DS numbers of system sales and highly critically acclaimed video games. I feel like what I say might not matter. I'm just repeating an echo chamber that you guys would probably understand, but what the hell are we gonna do? Well, we can always wait for the Switch 2 to fail. You guys remember when the Wii U failed and they actually got their act listened? I feel like the only time Nintendo will truly listen to us is when they're fucking up. This is unlike Sony and Microsoft, where we tell them that they're fucking up, so their response is to fuck up even more. No, with Nintendo, when they fuck up, they actually innovate. And that's gonna be really depressing, but very true. We just have to wait until Nintendo's next failure for them to finally see the error of their ways. Whenever the hell that happens.